When it comes to many films, one of the films that really spellbound me for the music was Malena, and the music was done by Ennio Morricone, which we're going to play today, this title track. But the background to the film caused quite controversy in its day, and if we go back to the film, it did win in the Grammys, I believe. The 73rd Academy Awards, the film was nominated for Best Cinematography and Best Original Score, but it caused a lot of controversy because people said it was a young boy's obsession with an older woman in Sicily, and she was punished for being beautiful, but he was transfixed by that beauty, and there was no depth. That's what they said. A film critic, and I don't particularly quote film critics, but in this particular case I will, because Roger Ebert was an American film critic, historian, journalist, and screenwriter, so he knows what he's talking about. Well, he compared the film to Federico Fellini's work. And Federico Fellini's work is an Italian film director and screenwriter known for his distinctive style, which blends the fantasy and baroque images of earthiness. So therefore, it was compared to that earthiness, that, young boy infatuation with an older woman. And he said Fellini's films often involved, says Roger, adolescents inflamed by women who embody their carnal desires. But Fellini sees the humour that underlines this sexual obsession, except, usually not always, in the eyes of the participants. Now, Malena, the story, is a simpler story in which a young man grows up, transfixed by this woman, and essentially marries himself to the idea of her. It doesn't help that the movie's action grows steadier, gloomier, because it gets gloomier in the film, and it leads to a public humiliation that seems wildly out of scale with the context of the film, with what has gone before and an ending that is intended to be much deeper ends up what it is. So it was accepted but panned, and my attitude about the film is, what did they expect to happen? That I think that the lead actress played it very well. She really enveloped the Malena character, and she embodied the fact that some people are punished for being so beautiful. And if you watch this particular video of Ennio Morricone and the theme tune, you're going to get a sense of that, of how extraordinarily beautiful she was. And I have seen that grown up from a young village, where there was one particular girl in our village, and she was so punished with words by people who were so jealous of her, men and women. It was quite incredible. And she ended up marrying the plainest person on the planet, a little fat, bald man whom most people said wouldn't have had a chance with an ordinary girl, and the most beautiful girl in the village married her because she turned around and said, he's going on to be a doctor, I have all of this, and I want a man that is plain, so my children stand a chance of having mixed genes. And she said, and that will bring balance into my life. For it's been awful being me. I remember she said that to me. And she said I was one of the few men that talked to her like a human being. But she married the plainest guy in the village, and they have been happily married for nearly 40 years now. And that's all we need to know. With more than 400 scores for cinema and television, as well as more than 100 classical works, Morricone is widely considered as one of the most prolific and greatest film composers of all time. And why do we say that? Take a listen, and we will come back with more talk about the film and more talk about Ennio Morricone, because this is my tribute to him and my favorite piece that he wrote. I hope you agree. Take it away, Ennio Morricone. It makes me want to, I'm sure it does with you as well, makes you want to go and watch the film. I think it had more depth than give credit for. I can see why it won and it was nominated, not won, but nominated for the cinematography. It is a phenomenal film that stands the test of time because it really does explore the concept of the perceived beauty that everybody strives to get. And we see it with young girls, and we see it with diets, and we see what even males have put themselves through, the gym and the torturous hours to get the perfect body. And everybody wants to attract a mate and be seen to be attractive. But we forget the sublime message that if you don't have soul, and if you don't have a heart, and if you don't have all the qualities that go with that superficial look, then you're really just an empty person, something pretty to look at, and you say, oh, how beautiful. Like when you walk into a jewelry shop and something catches your eye, and you put it on yourself and you say, oh, how beautiful, that's wonderful. Oh, and are you tempted to buy it, or are you not? It depends on your mood. So when it comes to beauty, I recall my friend from the village who was exceptionally beautiful. And she's had the most wonderful 40-year marriage. And I look at her children and I think how strong and beautiful they are, but how exceptional to this day she truly is. And somebody said to me, if you were to throw a dirty old cloth on that woman, she would make the cloth look beautiful. You wouldn't notice the cloth, you would just notice her beauty. And to this day, it's still the same. She never escapes it. She matured even more beautiful, tighter skin, rosy cheeks. She got everything. But she said what she didn't get was somebody with a soul, somebody who wanted her for her, somebody that she could speak to and laugh with. And she knew that that guy that she grew up with, who was the plainest guy in the whole village, was her soulmate. She knew that. And she said, I have all of this, and if everybody else is attracted, he might be running away from me, thinking I'm just a friend, but I need to show him this is all yours. It always has been. And she did, and she went on to have 4 children, and I'm delighted. And I know them really well, and I'm sure if they're listening, they go, please don't mention our names, because they are so, it's incredible how shy they are as a family, the shyness that's overcome them. So in the film, we see her, and she goes through a period of almost, I've never seen the film, and I've always said I will, and I think after playing this today, I'm going to see it. But you see just what happens when a beautiful woman sits and she goes to have a cigarette and everybody's there with their lighters saying, I have a lighter here, oh please let me light it for you, and there's about 10 offers, and she's dressed in black, and whether she's mourning the husband, because even in the village it's almost like she had to keep away from everybody and keep discreet, because her every single move was watched. And you've seen that with the fascination from the guys on the bikes. At a young age they grow up with this beautiful woman in their midst and they're all captivated by her. I think it's the kind of life that, even though we see the Kim Kardashians and we see other people on social media striving for that kind of beauty, some are just born with it and would rather dispose of it and not have a life with it, simply because of the pitfalls it brings. It's not always about glamour, I think. It really isn't. But when it comes to the film itself, Malena, we'll just go into a bit, because this is really not about words or about being analytical to the words. It's about the plot. In the fictional small Sicilian town of Cascuto, a small boy named Renato experiences 3 major events. The fascist dictator Benito Mussolini announces that Italy is entering World War II, and he receives a new bike. He sees for the first time together with his friends the beautiful and sensual Malena, who is the most desired young woman in town. Her husband Antonio is in the armed forces fighting the British in Africa, and she lives alone. Because of her physical appearance and her solitary status, She is an object of lust for all the town's men and hatred for its women. She keeps an eye on her father, who is Renato, and his friend's school teacher, and lives alone until he receives an anonymous note slandering her, which causes him to reject her. Renato becomes obsessed with Malena, spying on her in the house, stalking her when she leaves it and thinking of her in his erotic fantasies. He also steals some of her underwear from the clothesline. When his parents find it in his bedroom, they become upset and strictly punish him, trying to break his fixation. I think it's a travesty, it's a wonderful story, there's lots of little twists, but it's wonderfully cinematic, and if you haven't seen it, I think it's one of those films that you ought to. And when it comes to Ennio Morricone, we will finish on this note as well, because this is a tribute to the wonderful man himself. Morricone's best known compositions include The Ecstasy of Gold, Man with a Harmonica, Here's to You, Duque's #2 single, Chai May, Gabriel's Oboe, and Et puis ci penso. And in 1971 he received a Targa d'Oro for worldwide sales of 22 million. And by 2016, Morricone had sold more than 70 million records worldwide. In 2007, he received the Academy Honorary Award for his magnificent and multifaceted contributions to the art of film music, and he was nominated for a further 6 Oscars, and in 2016 received his only competitive Academy Award for his score Quentin Tarantino's film The Hateful Eight, at the time becoming the oldest person ever to win a competitive Oscar. His other achievements include 3 Grammy Awards, 3 Golden BAFTAs, and 11 Nastro di Gioteno, I think it's called, is known by translated Silver Ribbon, and it's an Italian Film Award each year. So he won 11 of those: 2 European Film Awards, a Golden Lion Honorary Award, and the Popular Music Prize. Morricone influenced many artists from film scoring to other styles and genres, including Hans Zimmer, Danger Mouse, Dire Straits, Metallica, Fields of Nephilim, and Radiohead, amongst others. I just want to wish this wonderful man peace, and may he always rest in peace. And thank you for the music, and thank you for today's Malena by Ennio Morricone. I hope you've enjoyed my contribution and my wonderful tribute to a man that we'll never forget. There'll be many more throughout 2022, but this has been my first, and it won't be my last. Thank you, Ennio Morricone, and thank you for everybody for listening. I hope you like, subscribe to my channel. There's plenty of classical as well as mixed artists waiting for you to hear their music, what they have to offer. I hope you enjoy your journey on my channel too. Take care for now.